Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on job costing in QuickBooks. My name is Jennifer. I will be your moderator today. Today's session is brought to you by Out-of-the-Box Technology. A little bit about Out-of-the-Box Technology. If you haven't joined us for a webinar before, you're a little unfamiliar, we are anything and everything QuickBooks. We deal with all versions of the QuickBooks software and automation products. We do data services, business services, cloud hosting, and more. Again, my name is Jennifer and I'll be your moderator today. A few items of housekeeping before we get started. Today's session is being recorded, so all of you will receive a link to the recording a little bit later today. If you wanted to watch it back, share it with some colleagues, we would love for you to be able to do that. We are also doing a gift card giveaway at the end of the session. So everyone who is registered is entered into that $200 Amazon gift card giveaway. So be sure to stick around until the end of the session to see who our winner is today. We'll also have some question and answer sessions throughout today's presentation. So if you do have any questions, you can go ahead and submit those to us via the chat on your GoToWebinar control panel, and we'll be sure to address your questions at the appropriate time. Again, some resources from today's session. If you would like a copy of the presentation or specifically the link, we will send those out later today. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first speaker, Lisa McCarthy. She is the COO and founding partner of Out-of-the-Box Technology. She's been in the business since really QuickBooks started, and so it's really an honor to have her here today to present her knowledge and expertise about QuickBooks as it really pertains to this industry. So with that, Lisa, I'm going to go ahead and hand things over to you so we can get started.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jennifer. So I'm here to give you a little lowdown on job costing in QuickBooks. And as Jennifer mentioned, I've been working with QuickBooks for a really long time, about 30 years. So I've seen it used in a lot of different ways. Construction, accounting, and job costing is one of my specialties. I get really excited about it. So I've tried to put a quick overview of how QuickBooks can work with job costing. And so what we're going to cover is what is it and why is it so important? What tools do I have in QuickBooks to accomplish my job costing? And in the course of talking through that, we'll go over estimating, job costing of internal labor, and reporting. So we're going to start with job costing for large projects. So when you have a quick in and out project, job costing becomes a little less important. So if you're in the business of doing like dispatched repair services where you're in and out in the same day and your jobs are primarily time and materials, job costing becomes a little bit less significant. But with larger projects, they tend to be bid oriented and very intense. Estimates are put together usually in Excel or some other estimating software that's unique to your specific industry. You're not going to use QuickBooks to come up with the numbers that become part of your estimate, but you are going to use it to track what the estimate is. So it's really a systematic way of determining what your costs are going to be and then using that information to create a quote for a customer. So typically a quote starts from the cost side. What is it going to cost me to deliver this product and service? And then how much am I going to mark it up to deliver to the customer? So job costing ensures that you get the right customer pricing, make sure you cover your costs and overhead, and provide a profit back to your business. So why is it so important? It is your budget, and it will keep you informed. If you set it up in QuickBooks correctly, or whatever accounting system that has that type of functionality, it will help you with cash flow forecasting, helps you know when you should be asking for more money from your customer. If it's a long-term project, you don't want to be upside down in your cash flow. It allows you to measure, how did I do versus how I thought I was going to do. I thought my cost on this phase of construction was going to be X. It came in at Y. What was the difference? Why? Was I inefficient? Was I really efficient? What can I learn from that to make my next bid more accurate and try to be more profitable? So it really identifies areas of efficiencies and inefficiencies. So what tools do I have in QuickBooks for job costing and estimating? The first tool we have is an estimate in QuickBooks. So there's two main versions of QuickBooks. There's the desktop version and the online version. And I'm going to go through a little bit of both because I'm sure there's people on this call that are using both versions of the software. Many people, because they have the name QuickBooks, think that it's the same program. One is web-based, one is desktop-based, and that is definitely not the case. QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop are vastly different. QuickBooks Desktop has been around since 1992. That's when I started with it, DOS 1.0. And it has been the mainstay of the QuickBooks product family from its inception. QuickBooks Online has been around only the last, I want to say, 8 years, probably even less than that from a relevant standpoint. It's only been the last few years that it's really picked up in popularity. The idea of QuickBooks Online is awesome because everybody wants web-based apps now. They want to be able to work from anywhere, and QuickBooks Online offers that. It's a great way to collaborate with your accountant and outside bookkeeping firms and accountants. But it does have, at this moment, some limitations. The functionality is not going to be the same as desktop, so I'm going to try to point out a couple of things that will make a difference if you're trying to do job costing. So in both desktop and online, the screen you're looking at right now is QuickBooks Online. They both have the estimate feature. They both use items, which are typically your phases of construction. But the online version only lets you really put in an estimate for your forecasted revenue. There's no cost column. So if you look at that screenshot, you see quantity times rate equals amount. That amount is your sales amount. So really, if you're trying to track what did I think it was going to cost me versus what it actually cost me, this screen is not going to help you. So the workaround that is out there in the marketplace at this point, if you're going to be on QBO, is you have to actually use the budgeting feature instead of estimating to track estimate versus actual. On the desktop side, you'll see there's several columns. There's your estimate column, then the grand total, and then the markup, and then the revenue column. So you start with your cost. That first column's really important in the dollar and cents area. And then the markup, you can mark up line by line, or in most cases with big projects, they'll put the markup as the last line of the project, and it just goes in the there's no cost, it's just a markup, and then it affects the total revenue. Now, most of you won't be sending this out to a customer, and if you did, the printed or emailed version would not include the estimate in the markup column. The only thing the customer would see is that last column that says revenue. But in order to get all the fancy reporting, you've got to be able to put in your estimated cost. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about labor and job costing and certified payroll. So most of you, in order to track labor and get the job costs with time, need to use some sort of time capture software. The one I recommend is the one that's so tightly integrated with QuickBooks, which is QuickBooks Time. It used to be called T-Sheets. Intuit bought the software and now it's rebranded as QuickBooks Time. But if you've heard of T-Sheets, it's the same software, just different name. So that software can be imported into, it's a web-based software that lives on your cell phone. You can also use it from a computer, but most folks that are out in the field, they can clock in and out right from their smartphone. and it will then be available for import into either QuickBooks Desktop or online. So this is a screenshot from QuickBooks Online. So QuickBooks Online, again, today, what I say today isn't necessarily what it's going to be tomorrow, but today, QuickBooks Online has a feature called Projects. So you can set up a project under a customer, and you can tag all of your expenses to a project. Now, if you're not using QuickBooks Online Payroll, but you're using QuickBooks Timesheets, you can at least view within the project screen for a particular project. In this case, it's project XYZ. You can view how much time has been allocated to this project thus far and kind of see where you are against your total income and have an ongoing profit. But this is just a screen, so it's not a report. You can't export it out anywhere. So it's really something that, unless somebody had access to the QuickBooks Online software, and unless they went and opened that particular project, they wouldn't be able to get to this information. So it's a little bit limited because it's not a report, it's just a screen. If you can go to the next slide. So this is the screenshot of a timesheet as it's viewed inside of QuickBooks Desktop, and it's specifying the job, what kind of service was performed, so that's your phase of construction, and then the payroll item. Is it regular time, overtime, or do you have different rates for different types of work? You can have all kinds of different payroll items. So this is what it would look like if you were to pull it in from QuickBooks Time. This is where it ends up in QuickBooks. So this is just time. There's no dollars associated yet. You have to do something with the time before dollars end up on the reports. So if you can go to the next slide. So this is a screenshot of an actual paycheck. If you were using QuickBooks to pay your employees, it's a very complicated entry. So it's going to take all that timesheet data and it's going to spread all the dollars and all of the associated payroll taxes and any other company paid benefits that you want to allocate to jobs. It will allocate all of that proportionately. In QBO, it only allocates, if you are using QuickBooks Online Payroll, it only allocates the wages and the attached payroll tax expense. It will not allocate any additional benefits or burden rates. This is a feature only available in QuickBooks Enterprise. So those of you that have to do certified payroll, this is a really awesome little add-on that's available with Enterprise. It will take the weekly wages, add on all the certified payroll information, such as benefits and payroll taxes, to get to that prevailing wage rate that's required, usually in government and municipal type jobs. So what happens if you're using an outside payroll service and you're trying to get job costing? If you're using an outside payroll service like an ADP or a Paychex and your outside accountant, whatever, if you're on QuickBooks Online, you're kind of sunk because you can't get any dollars. There's not a good, easy way to allocate that timesheet data across all the jobs unless you're doing payroll. With desktop version, now this is just my terminology, it's not a real word or a real actual feature, but I've come up with a little methodology called mock payroll, where we put in a fully loaded rate that you want to see on your job cost reports, and we can take that timesheet data and push it throughout the system at that fully loaded rate, and it will appear on all your job cost reports, even if you're using an outside payroll service. So it's a great way to make use of the payroll module, but not actually have to create real payroll. Next slide. All right, let's talk a little bit about reporting. So in QuickBooks Online, there's just very, very limited job cost reports available. And unless you're doing payroll, you're not going to really see anything on your job cost reports relative to wages. So that's a little drawback there. There's no way to create mock payroll or any other easy methodology. Unless you were to do a very complicated journal entry, you could get it in there. But most folks don't have the time or the resources to do that. With desktop, even if you're using an outside payroll service, you can again use that mock payroll option to allocate quick and easy. Literally, once it's set up, it takes 5 minutes to allocate those timesheets and have it populate all your job reporting. If you're using real payroll, it will be on there as well on both QuickBooks Online and desktop. So the next few slides are all going to be around QuickBooks Desktop because none of these reports exist in QuickBooks Online. So the first one is just very high level, picking a particular job. It's listing out your phases of construction, whatever you want that list to look like. What are my total actual costs? What is my total actual revenue? And what's the difference? So you can have a very granular view of how you're spending money on a project and where you are in the whole scheme of things. Next slide. So this is another report that takes a look if you're using estimates. So if you enter an estimate in QuickBooks, then you can start to measure where am I at versus where I thought I was going to be. So if you look at, say, the third line down, structural and framing, you can see, well, I estimated my total costs were going to be $5,700. I've already spent $3,100, and so I've got another $2,500 left in my budget. So that's really helpful for your project managers to keep an eye on where they are in the project. Next slide. This is what's called a committed cost report. This is only available in enterprise version of QuickBooks. And what this factors in are the things that maybe your bookkeeper hasn't received yet in terms of a bill from a vendor, but you have an open PO for. So that's what the committed cost column represents. All those open purchase orders that you've committed to paying, but you don't have the bill for it yet. And so so far I've spent $143,000 on a project, but I know I'm going to have another $15,000 coming in. So I better be prepared to pay that. Also, the unpaid wages column factors in everything that's on a timesheet that hasn't yet been pulled into a paycheck. So it's about as real time as you can be in forecasting out where you're going to be at the end of the project. This one is also an enterprise-only report. It's a cost to complete, so you can pick up a particular project, put in your percent complete for each phase of construction. Now, this doesn't mean how far have I swung the hammer. It's how much have I incurred. When it says percent complete, it doesn't mean physically, it means economically. So how much have I consumed of my total estimated costs? How much do I think I've already incurred versus what I know is going to come in? So that percentage, if you put that in, it will, for each phase of construction, it will extrapolate out where it thinks you're going to end up based on your overall estimate. So it's really helpful for forecasting cash flow. This one is my absolute favorite report. This is called a work in process summary report. Again, only available in enterprise. And so this is something for those people that are doing percentage of completion recognition of revenue. So that means it's a big, long project that goes over maybe a year, 6 months, year and a half, 2 years, whatever it is. And you're not waiting to recognize the revenue at the very end. You're recognizing the revenue based on how far along you are in the project each month. And so this used to be something that I would do in Excel manually. And now there's a built-in report that will give you those percentages. So if you put in an estimate, and in the one that's circled, it's 121,000, and you've already incurred, you estimate your expenses to be 121,000, you've already incurred 116,000. Mathematically, that means you're 95% done from an economic standpoint with this project, assuming you're on budget. Okay, so to match the timing of revenue to the timing of your expenses, you want to recognize 95% of your revenue to match the 95% of your costs. So that's the earned revenue column. That's not a number you can double click on in QuickBooks and get to the underlying numbers. That's a calculated number. What was my estimated revenue times the 95%? That's my earned revenue. That's how much I should show on the books so far in this project. And then that last column, the difference between actual revenue and earned revenue, is that over/under billings calculation that your accountants usually help you figure out. So this report is super helpful from an accountant's perspective, and also to help give you a tool to recognize the appropriate portion of revenue in a long-term project. Next slide. There's a couple little other features that are only available in the contractor version of QuickBooks Desktop. So this is either Premier or Enterprise. There's on the left-hand side, you'll see the work comp expiration date and the general liability expiration date. Those, when you go through audits, work comp audits, those are really helpful fields to use to build reports and keep track of your vendors to make sure that they have appropriate certificates on file. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see some reports that are specialized to contractors. Some of my favorites are the unpaid bills by job report. So you're kind of looking at an accounts payable report, but it's sorted by jobs instead of by vendor. And then expenses not assigned to jobs. So that's a little helpful report to catch the lazy bookkeeper that forgets to attach an expense to a job and gets lost in oblivion. There's a tool in there to help capture that. Next slide. All right, so that's what I wanted to go over at a very high level on the job costing in QuickBooks. It's really all about reporting and then working backward to make sure that your methodologies and setup is done in such a way that it will support the reporting that you need to get you through a big project. Jennifer, did you want to open it up for a few questions before we move to the next section?
Yeah, thank you so much, Lisa. If anyone has any questions about what Lisa just went over about the applications in QuickBooks, you can go ahead and submit those. At this time, we don't have any, so I'll let you digest that information a little bit as I introduced our next presenter. And we will have another question session at the end. So if something pops up, or as we're kind of going through the next topic, something kind of lines up and sparks your brain, go ahead and put those in the question box there on your control panel. But with that, I would like to transition and introduce our next guest speaker, Bob Cain, with Build Tools and Bolt, part of ECI Software Solutions. Bob is responsible for customer experience, business expansion, team growth, software development, and daily operations over at Build Tools and Bolt. He's been in the industry over 23 years in various business units, various positions on different committees, so definitely very well versed in the industry. So Bob, I would like to hand things over to you and get started with your segment of today's presentation.
Great, thanks Jennifer. Love to get started. So just a little bit about ECI Solutions. The three products that we'll talk a little bit here today are listed. I thought that was a great presentation that Lisa just went through, and the backbone of QuickBooks. And just to put it out there, all three of these products integrate with QuickBooks, and hopefully in the next couple of minutes, you'll learn a little bit about the operational needs that these products meet and how that actually ties into QuickBooks. Something to keep in mind is that these products were built by construction business owners for construction businesses. So these were people that were in your shoes right now, developing products to help them with their business needs. So I wanted to get started with something that actually relates directly to the industry. And so this is a McKinsey Global Institute of Digitalization Index. And so what that means is what industries are using technology right now to become more efficient and profitable. And so if we look at the green area, that means that they're using a lot of technology and they're pretty good at it. The area in red, they're not. So if we go to the next slide and we pinpoint our home in this industry right here, we see we have quite a bit of red out there. So as an industry, we have work to do to catch up, to utilize these tools to help us become more efficient and help us become more profitable. And that's why I wanted to spend a little bit of time with you here today. So the first thing is, let's talk a little bit about customer segmentation. So if we think about the different areas that the products that I just referred to solve, we believe it's probably the majority of the attendees right now. So going from the left over to the right, thinking in terms of custom builders. Custom builders is a business to consumer type of scenario where the business is working directly with the consumer to agree on what is going to be built, what the payment terms are, the subcontractor labor, and all the job costing. And then if you think about a remodel project, that's real similar. So custom builders and remodelers are working directly with consumers. And so there are different pains when you're working directly with the consumer than when you're not. And you may be managing your job costing and your accounting just a little bit differently as well. When we think about a trade partner that exclusively works for home builders, that is a business to business type of relationship. And so the way that we job cost in that scenario may be just a little bit different than when we go from a business to consumer. And so we'll talk about a tool that serves that niche. And then the last thing we'll talk about here is field services. This is the construction services industry that goes directly out to homeowner houses. So this is still a trade contractor, but rather than dedicating all of the time to builders, the trade contractor is working directly with consumers. So I just wanted to kind of lay that out. That seems as though it's the majority of what we have in the call today. So we are at ECI, and we'll talk a little bit more about this. We are a global organization that focuses on small to medium-sized businesses. And so we have about 30,000 customers. And so we did a recent survey just with our construction customers. And what we heard back from those is 60% of them let us know that they have seen an increase in employee productivity due to business process automation. And what does that mean? It means using the cloud-based technology that is out there today that's designed specifically for their industry. So they've seen some pretty impressive gains in efficiency. And so the three products that we'll talk just a little bit about today are Bolt, that's designed for trade contractors that work for builders, ThermoGrid, and that is for trade contractors that work for homeowners, and Build Tools, which is for custom builders and remodelers, all of which have to do job costing, all of which tie back into QuickBooks, and all of which are very important because they feed QuickBooks lots of good information. And so if we think a little bit about technology, now, why is our industry back a little bit? It takes a little bit of time to adopt the technology, and it costs money, and not only financial money to pay for it, but it also costs time, and time is money. But if we think about the ways that technology pays for itself, we can think about standard processes. Now, I mentioned that these products were developed by business owners in the field for the purpose of other businesses like businesses using them. That means that now there are many users out there that are using it, and the technology has the best practices built into it. All of these individual programs have budgets completely built in. They manage changes. It has in-platform communication for within the organization and client communication. So the customers can also be a part of the whole entire process. So the mission of ECI is really focused on the small to medium-sized businesses and really helping the small to the medium-sized businesses grow with solutions that make doing business easier. So if we look at ECI holistically, and we really narrow into the construction area of ECI, you see some products listed across the board. The area that is inside this red box right here, these are the products that are going to help the construction sector that is tied directly into accounting systems. And so the Bolt and ThermoGrid product are used by contractors. ThermoGrid is something that is tied to the existing homeowners, so do-it-yourself homeowners and home repair. Bolt is tied directly to builders. And then when we think about build tools right in the middle, that is for the contractors and the remodelers. There are also other products outside the scope of this webinar that really make up the residential home construction community that all of our users come from. So let's start just a little bit here with Build Tools. So Build Tools is a project management software for custom builders and remodelers. And the purpose of Build Tools really is managing projects, but everything starts with exactly what Lisa was just talking about. Everything starts with a budget and an estimate. How much is this going to cost me? So if I'm a custom home builder or a remodeler and I'm creating the bid and a proposal for a job, the first thing I need to know is how much it is going to cost me. So Build Tools does a real good job of helping the business estimate that cost, redline plans, send out bids to trade contractors, and then store documents that back up those bids in order to be able to come up with a budget of cost that's going to allow us to project the total cost of the project. It allows you to publish multiple versions of that budget. And then as that builder works directly with the homeowner, as many of you know, there are selections. So what are we going to do? What are the specific selections that are going to go into this house? And then what are we going to change in the beginning and throughout the project? So Build Tools does a real good job of managing those things. What it also does is it communicates to the field so that all stakeholders that are involved can see when they have to show up based on the schedule. They can see what they have to do that the schedule drives, as well as tasks. A project or a section of the system called minutes, which is the result of meetings with the homeowner. And just like in QuickBooks, the ability to generate a purchase order to back up the amount of money that the contractor bid so that everybody is on the same page as to how much the contractor is going to get paid when that specific task is complete. So all of these things are managed live in the field through the use of the web-based program. And then there's a customer portal so that the customer is involved in this process the entire time. So that's just a real high-level view. And Build Tools will then connect directly to QuickBooks in a two-way sync so that you do not have to perform double entry. So you can accomplish all of the great things that Lisa was talking about in the overview for QuickBooks and still accomplish the operational field-based needs that you need to provide in order to have a good product here for your customers. Now, if you could take out your cell phone real quick, and this isn't a long drawn out demo, but if you could take out your cell phone real quick and open the camera and use your camera to scan this QR code. I want to be able to tell you a real quick story here. I'm not going to give you a full demo on Build Tools, but what a lot of our customers do is they take all of the documents and some of that operational information that's important to the people that are building the jobs in the field, and they actually print this piece of paper out and put it on site at the job. And what individual trade contractors and stakeholders do is they do just what you did. They scan that and they click it, and that takes them to a place where they can look at the plan in real time. They can look at anything that the builder made available to them in real time from an attachment standpoint. And then they can also go down and look at schedules, homeowner information, and basic data that comes directly from the system to see who's involved. So I wanted to just show that to you real quickly. You'll have a copy of these slides. You can certainly look at it later as well, but a good way to keep everybody connected and accountable. And then the next product is called Bolt. As we talked about, this is the product that was designed by a trade contractor for trade contractors that work for builders. So in this segment, what we want to look at here is these are the individuals who work for one or many builders. And so the individuals who run companies like this, they typically aren't working with a whole lot of homeowners. They're working directly with another business to perform very specific services. And the operation of the business looks a little bit like this next slide we're about to view here. And this traditionally is what just about every single one of our customers has looked like, and most of them still do when we come into the business to talk to them about using this web-based software platform. Over in the top left, you have manila folders that keep track of information that is specific to a job, and you may have one folder per job. On the right, you have some filing cabinets that keep track of all of those folders for all of those jobs that you're working on right now and that you may have worked on in the past. And then when you need to organize your resources, which may be individuals within your organization or the crews that you work with, a lot of these companies are putting it on a whiteboard so that they can understand conflicts, potential conflicts with their own resources going out to work for these builders. So the builders may have portals, but the trade themselves is still keeping track of things on whiteboards, and if in real advanced cases, maybe Google Calendars or some kind of an electronic calendar. But this is really what's happening today, and a lot of you on the call are probably in this situation. So what Bolt does and what it was designed for is it was designed to take all of this, put it in the cloud, make it very usable, and let it go in the processes and the procedures that make the most sense for the best practices in the product. And again, tie everything out to QuickBooks. So if we go to the next slide, what I want to do here is I'm going to show you what happens here. If somebody is interested in the status of a job, you go up and all you do is click on search, start to type in that job number, and then that job pops up. That job folder and everything that was in it is now in this spot that I have access to. The next thing I might want to look at is what's called a work order inside the system. These are trips to the job site to perform some kind of a task that's on schedule. I may also want to keep track of photos. These photos may be taken out in the field by crew members or stored by the back office. I also have agreements with builders that are referred to as contracts. So when a builder, when we bid on work and a builder accepts the bid, I have these contracts in here that are set up at the base house and separate options and even keeps track of extras. And then I may also keep track of my own internal job labor. As Lisa pointed to, there's time tracking inside of QuickBooks. I may do it within and integrated within the schedule, or I may do it in QuickBooks as well. And then last but not least, when all of the purchase orders that come to me as a trade contractor from a builder, they automatically get emailed into the system and they automatically get dispersed throughout. So there's no actual typing of the purchase order to keep track of it. It goes directly into your system so that you can track all of those details as a trade that you have to do and accomplish to move forward to get paid the amount of money that's on that purchase order. So that's just a real quick high-level operational view of what this product does in the web as far as supporting the operational flow. And if we go to the next slide, this is just a quick screenshot of, actually, if we go one more over, this will show us the reporting. If we just click one more time there, Jennifer. This will show us the reporting that, that is involved with Bolt outside of this. Looks like we may be stuck on the video there. We might have to tell the video to stop playing. But the reporting that happens inside of Bolt is you can have reports of your crews, your supervision, you can forecast, and that reporting can come out in nice dashboards, as well as detail-oriented reporting such as job cost analysis and detailed tracking of the parts and pieces that actually make up the job cost. All right, so that's a quick overview of our Bolt product. And then last but not least, the product that was designed for field services to serve the residential and commercial contractors that work directly for homeowners. And some of the primary industries are listed down below, but these are trade contractors that are now going out to homeowner houses. So if we look one click in here, these are some of the features that are contained within this product. So if I'm an HVAC company and your HVAC breaks in the middle of the summer, I'm going to come out and service the HVAC system or replace it. And then what I may want to do is talk to you a little bit about when the new system is installed, getting on a maintenance plan and continual service. I want you to call me again if you have an issue in the future. So what this product does is it serves trades like that. So it keeps track of the estimates and the actuals at the detail level. It keeps track of time. It looks at commissions because things can be sold when working with the homeowners directly. It manages equipment, material, labor, taxes, fees, and it also syncs to QuickBooks. So the software has the ability for bookkeepers and office managers and dispatchers, all to be connected in one spot to be able to manage the business. And here's just a quick overview of some of the reports you might be able to see with all of the operational flow that comes along with this software. Certainly we want to be able to produce reports. And again, what we'll do here when we tie everything out at the end is everything does integrate in with QuickBooks, but this is more of the operational detail flow that happens in the business live in real time by the stakeholders that are actually doing the work. So if we go to the next slide, what we want to talk about here is each one of these products are in the cloud. And so what that means is ECI manages the software, makes it available for the users, and the software is backed up and secured in a cloud-based environment. What that also means is the users can access the software from anywhere in the world at any time. And so being an advanced user of either of the QuickBooks application, desktop or web, is very important. It's very important to keep track of all of the details that go into your business. The part where that becomes extremely challenging is when you are not being fed the correct information or in a timely manner. So what we aim to do with these three products right here is we aim to engage the rest of the stakeholders in the business, your team members, the people that are in the field, the people that are selling and estimating and procuring, the individuals who are doing other things in the business to let the business run. Instead of having them hand you information or send you information, allowing that part of the business to run in a web-based application and keep track of all the operations, and then connecting that into your QuickBooks system and feeding you information is the way that we believe is the way of the future for this industry. And then having bi-directional back and forth syncing so that everybody is on the same page is something that we strive to do in all of our business units that connect with QuickBooks. So just looking real quick from the left to the right over here, on the both side of things, all things in the system that are needed in order to be able to generate an invoice are going to sync. So the vendors, the jobs, all of those things are going to sync with QuickBooks. And then the list of the completed work orders are synced to QuickBooks because that's what creates the invoices in QuickBooks, is a completed work order, which was the commitment from the builder to go out and do the work. And then from a build tool standpoint, same thing, all things to sync an invoice, the invoices are entered, budgets will also sync. So budgets are the most important part of keeping track of that job cost that Lisa went through, and being able to sync directly from the operational tool into the accounting system is very important. And some of the things that we're going to be doing in the future are financial billings that go to the homeowner for the custom builders and remodelers, and those purchase order agreements. Those purchase order agreements that Lisa showed us that we can do today inside of QuickBooks, we're going to find a way so that when they are actually created in the field, to be able to automatically sync them in real time, or when they're put in QuickBooks, to put them right back into build tools in real time. And on the ThermoGrid side, real similar, we sync directly to the chart of accounts. Inventory and financials also sync to QuickBooks. So that was a real high level overview. Happy to answer any questions that anyone has, or get you more information if you'd like to learn more. So thanks a lot for giving me that time, and thanks for attending the webinar.
Thank you so much, Bob. That was awesome to really hear about those three products. And I just think it's so relevant how they all sync together with QuickBooks and the importance of the aspects that QuickBooks brings to this industry. So that kind of gets us through all of our content for today. So again, we'll open it up for questions. You can go ahead and type those in the question pane on GoToWebinar. At this point, there aren't any, so I'm just going to advance the slide ahead. Some information about ECI's family of products. There are a couple of their web links, some email addresses if you wanted to reach out for more information. Again, you can either screen capture this slide here, or everyone will get a copy of the presentation, so you should be able to revisit that without frantically scrambling and writing down some information right here. So we do have a couple questions coming in. The first one is the ECI software available for QuickBooks Online only or for desktop as well?
It's available for both.
For both, perfect. Thank you so much. I know there's, as Lisa touched on, there's some features that are available only in desktop and enterprise. So it's good to know that it syncs across all those softwares. Thank you. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the session, we do have a drawing for a $200 Amazon gift card. So I'm going to go ahead. I created a little wheel of names of everyone who registered today. So before I spin this, we do have one other question coming in. Our builder uses ECI. Can our QuickBooks sync with their system?
That's a really good question. So ECI supports many products. And so the 3 products that we have listed on this webinar right now sync with QuickBooks. However, some of our products, the builder may use, like some of our ERP products that we showed in the beginning, they have accounting built into the system itself. So it would really depend on the product. But I can tell you if it's any of these 3 that are in the webinar here today that your builder uses, that can sync with QuickBooks. Now, it would sync with their QuickBooks, but what it wouldn't do was come out and sync with your QuickBooks in particular.
Okay, great. And one other question, what is the best ECI product for a general contractor who's building new residential spec homes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if the new residential spec homes aren't, if it's not a repeatable type of scenario, meaning I'm not looking to build hundreds of them, I'm looking to manage the individual projects as I go, I would highly recommend that you look at build tools. If you are a construction company that is looking to build high volume of these spec homes, and you want to be able to have some option selections and that you can talk about and show in the sale later on, and potentially evolve yourself to not building spec houses at some point, it would be good to look into our product Mark systems. But for right now, just building spec homes, managing the project, integrating with QuickBooks, would highly recommend that you look at build tools.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, well, I'm going to click to spin to see who our lucky winner today is of the $200 Amazon gift card.
Oh, this is exciting.
Wheel of names do its thing. And it looks like Derek G is our winner. So I will reach out to you later today, Derek, in order for you to receive that gift card. Congratulations. And I don't see any other questions coming through. So with that, I'd like to thank both Lisa and Bob so much for joining us today. And we do have another presentation next week. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into how these sync. And we're going to talk about doing more with less, answering the question, is your technology working for you or holding you back? So again, as we do some follow-ups today, we'll have a link to register for that webinar as well. We would love to have you join us. Maybe you'll have a couple days to have a few more questions build up after reviewing this information, kind of digesting everything. So we'd love to have you join for that webinar. And then if you are ready to have a deeper conversation, again, I shared some information about Bob's contact and those products. And if you wanted to have a conversation about QuickBooks and how it can work better for you, maybe do a wellness check and see, are you in the right product? Maybe you're using QuickBooks Online, because as Lisa mentioned, that's kind of been the trend, but maybe it's not exactly what you need for your business, and a desktop version, maybe Contractor Edition, might be best for you. We'd love to have that conversation with you. There's our contact information here at Out of the Box Technology. And on behalf of our team here and the team at ECI, I'd love to thank everyone for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer, for putting this together.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks, everybody.